Picture this, August 1947. For India, it was a moment of incredible triumph, but also unspeakable tragedy. While a brand new nation was celebrating its freedom, another man, sitting all alone in a room in Delhi, was just drawing lines on a map. And these lines, they were about to decide the fate of millions of people. He had absolutely no idea the kind of history he was really creating. So who was this guy? His name was Sir Cyril Radcliffe, a respected British lawyer, sure, but he was chosen for this enormous task of drawing the border between India and Pakistan for one kind of crazy reason. He knew absolutely nothing about the subcontinent. The thinking was this made him neutral, unbiased. I mean, the man didn't even know where Punjab was or Bengal. He was a total blank slate. And with a pencil in his hand, he was about to write a history of bloodshed. So how did this line even come to be? Well, it's a story of impossible deadlines, political desperation, a process so completely detached from the reality on the ground that, looking back now, it just seems totally surreal. The speed of it all is just staggering. You have to remember, Great Britain was exhausted and basically bankrupt after World War II. They were in a desperate hurry to get out of India. So on June 3rd, the final viceroy, Mountbatten, announces the plan. He said the British were sitting on a volcano and had to divide and quit. Radcliffe shows up on July 8th and is given until August 15th. And here's the craziest part. The borders he drew weren't even made public until 2 days after India and Pakistan had already declared their independence. 36 days. That's it. That's all the time he was given to slice a line through villages, farms, and communities that had existed for centuries. He had no time to actually visit the places he was dividing. His only tools were old maps, unreliable census data, and a ton of conflicting advice from his Indian and Pakistani advisors. What a mess. And the absurdity of the whole thing was just mind-boggling. See, the partition wasn't just about land. Everything had to be divided. Every single government file, every typewriter, every paperclip. There's this one story where officials actually argued over 60 ducks. Did they belong to West Bengal in India or East Bengal, which was now in Pakistan? It was just complete chaos, right down to the tiniest detail. This bureaucratic nightmare, as you can imagine, quickly turned into a human catastrophe. Because while officials were busy arguing over ducks, millions of people were about to find out they were suddenly living in the wrong country. That Radcliffe line stranded 5 million Hindus and Sikhs in what was now Pakistan, and over 5 million Muslims in what was now India. And this, right here, sparked the largest migration in all of human history. We're talking about 10 million people, forced to just abandon their homes, walking in these enormous columns that stretched for 50 miles, all heading towards a country most of them had never even seen before. One of the most terrifying symbols of this whole period were the ghost trains. A train would be scheduled to arrive, say from Lahore to Amritsar, but when it finally pulled into the station, this creepy silence would just hang over the platform. No one would get off, because when the doors were opened, the carriages were found to be filled, not with passengers, but with corpses. And this was the message that was scrawled on the side of one of those trains arriving in India. Just a chilling, chilling message that really captured the bitterness and the brutality of the violence that was just tearing Punjab apart. And these trains were coming from both sides of the new border, each one a horrifying monument to the hate that partition had unleashed. But while Punjab was on fire, something pretty incredible was happening over in Calcutta. The British were terrified of a bloodbath there. They'd sent a 55,000-strong army to Punjab, but had nobody for Calcutta. So Mountbatten made this strange request to Mahatma Gandhi, calling him his one-man boundary force. And Gandhi went. He lived with the man Hindus called the Butcher of Calcutta. And when violence did break out, he started a fast unto death. Within 73 hours, the rioters themselves were laying down their weapons at his feet. It was a true miracle. So while this absolute tragedy of partition was unfolding, a second, equally dramatic story was taking place. And this was the challenge of turning a fragmented map, just riddled with independent kingdoms, into a single, unified nation. This was the big question. With the British leaving, the 565 princely states, or Rajwadas, were technically free. They could join India, they could join Pakistan, or they could just declare independence. And you better believe their rulers were dreaming of being independent kings of their very own countries. And if they had chosen independence, India's map would have looked like Swiss cheese. just riddled with more than 500 holes. I mean, some of these states, like Hyderabad and Kashmir, were bigger than many European countries. The unified India that we know today, it would have been simply impossible. This is where Sardar Patel, India's Iron Man, stepped in. He, along with his right-hand man, VP Menon, came up with a deal for the princes that was both generous and, well, non-negotiable. They used Lord Mountbatten's royal connections to charm the princes, offering them the right to keep their fancy titles, their palaces, and a nice government allowance. But behind all that charm was a clear message. Joining India was gonna happen. Patel said he wanted a basket full of apples, and one by one, most of the rulers saw the writing on the wall and signed. But this whole process was anything but smooth. It was full of high-stakes drama. The young king of Jodhpur was actually being tempted by Pakistan's Jinnah, and after he was finally convinced to sign with India, he pulled a pistol on VP Menon. And then you have the Nawab of Junagadh, a guy who apparently loved his 2,000 dogs more than his own people. He tried to join Pakistan, but ended up fleeing with his favorite dogs when the Indian army surrounded his state. You just can't make this stuff up. But one apple remained stubbornly out of the basket. The most difficult, the most contentious, and the one whose legacy still haunts the subcontinent to this very day: Kashmir. So Kashmir was basically the mirror image of that situation in Junagadh. In Junagadh, you had a Muslim ruler over a Hindu majority. In Kashmir, the Maharaja was Hindu, while his population was overwhelmingly Muslim. In the Maharaja, Hari Singh, he dreamed of an independent Kashmir, belonging to neither India nor Pakistan. But that dream was shattered on October 24, 1947. Pathan tribesmen, backed by Pakistan, invaded Kashmir to force it to join them. In a total panic, Maharaja Hari Singh appealed to India for help, signing the Instrument of Accession on October 26th. The very next day, the Indian army landed in Srinagar, and that's what sparked the very first India-Pakistan War. A ceasefire about a year later created the line of control, basically freezing the battle lines right where they stood. And this was the pivotal moment. The invaders' main goal was to capture Srinagar's airport to stop Indian troops from being able to land. But just 30 miles away from their target, they stopped in the town of Baramulla. See, they had been promised loot, and they stopped to pillage and plunder. That one critical delay gave the Indian army just enough time to land, secure the airport, and save Srinagar. So in the end, 1947 really tells two starkly different stories. The drawing of that border was a historic tragedy, a wound that has never really healed. But at the exact same time, the welding together of hundreds of separate kingdoms into a single nation, well, that was nothing short of a political miracle. Which kind of leaves us with this question, right? How is a nation truly made? The story of 1947 suggests it's a story of all three. It reminds us that nations aren't just born on a single day of celebration. They are forged, often brutally, through unimaginable suffering, hard-nosed political will, and ultimately just the sheer determination to exist. A complex legacy that continues to shape the destiny of nearly 2 billion people today.